Saturday, Nick's forecast today, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about buying apartment buildings and doing that. Make sure this comes up here. Hold on. Okay, well, let's go here. A second. Okay. So I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. There we go. Anyways, buying apartment buildings for your first time, commercial, etc. This is all great for all you buyers, second and third time buyers, real estate mortgage brokers, whatever. A lot has to do with finance. Most people don't pay for everything in cash. They just don't. Major players in the game don't do it. Grant Cardone, he always finances his stuff. But first starting out, you don't have a lot of cash. You know, you're going ahead to buy. There's other ways that you can buy. You might want to look at buying a fourplex. Don't get a house, duplex or triplex. If you really want a house, you might want to better off a fourplex for the first 6 months because you can regularly finance those. And the reason I say those is to buy a house, then you have some income you can start generating right off the bat. You know, if you're not afraid to live in one, or just say you're living in one, yeah, FHA will finance them, VA will finance them. There's Fannie Mae 3% stated programs. There's no doc programs, grants, 3, 5, 10% down. And zero down programs to buy much the lowest rate, since the lowest rates are the 3% range, depending on how you work it, 4%, whether if it's a 30-year or if it's a 15-year or whatever. I would tell you to get a 15-year. I'll look at it too, depending if you're in a high-end area or if you're in a mid or lower end area as far as pricing goes. And I mean, I remember a couple weeks ago, I got this thing in Seattle for a crappy fourplex in a city outside of Seattle, running about $1.2 million. It was a piece of crap. I mean, but it was a good fixture, but on it, it wasn't there, even with the low rate. But it's good to own. So the thing is, you want to look around for something like that. Maybe something you can move into, might be a half hour away, 20 minutes away from where you're at, especially in a big metropolitan area. Your first time out. The thing is, because you can finance it, and financing is the name of the game. So if you're buying a house, triplex, get the fourplex because it's better. And also too, it's something you can eventually, you could wait some time and 100, 150, whatever, that add income. Now, there's one thing Cardone says, which is true, is that the vacancy issue. And the bigger the commercial building, you can with a different type of lease. And one day I'll go out, and commercial buildings are a completely different beast. Apartment buildings are a little more straightforward, or multifamilies, however you want to term it. So the thing is that you can go ahead and your van, especially buying fourplexes. I know some people, I sold a bunch of fourplexes. They started going up buying 5, 6, 10 plex. Between the fourplex and triplex and duplex, considered more of a single family residence. That's how the banks or the secondary market, that's how they look at it. And that's how basically FHA looks at it, Fannie Mae type of stuff. So take advantage of it. There's 3% programs out that are not FAUs, the Fannie Mae, a couple conventional programs, or some Alt-A programs. Essentially, it's just stuff that's not conventional. Rates are the same. They're a little more down programs. But away with the 3% down program, that's what I would tell you, is to get a fourplex, live in one of the units for a while. I would tell you not to live in any of the units. And I would say just rent them all out. They're already rented, great the leases on those, and see how many of those people have a year lease. Hopefully they're all month to month. Reason that is, because if they're all month to month, wait a couple months, then go ahead and boom, raise $100 raise. I shouldn't say raise, increase. Excuse me, bad terminology there. Excuse me. So you should hit that on there, and that's just another way to look at it. Things you can look at just need to be painted on the outside. What does the apartments look like inside? That kind of stuff. But this is a way to start doing it, because I've owned a number of these. When we're going to need an apartment buildings, it's a 5-unit or more. It's a whole different trajectory, because then you're going to have to put down a lot more money. Now, the thing is right now is that they're non-owner occupied, all these, so you totally work it. Now, financing right now, you get up to 8% right now, which is awesome, or 85% stated, no doc type of loans. And the rates are really good right now. They're still, you can get them in the 4s and the 5s, so you can still turn it in profit margin. And it just depends on where you live and what the cost is going to be for it. Sorry, a little long. Anyways, so the cost is going to be completely different as far as what it's going to cost you to get the property variables. Hold on a second, I got to check something real quick. All right. Sorry about that. I had to check something real fast. I just want to do kind of testing stuff too while I'm doing this. Anyway, so the cost is the cost angles on that, as far as buying a 5-plex, 6-plex, 8-plex, 10-plex, and going beyond. It's just the amount of money you're going to have to put down. People I can fund, essentially lenders that don't advertise, they only do it with brokers, and they've got stuff. If you have a local broker that's worth their salt, you get some good deals. I laughed. I got CB Richard Ellis, CBRE, that division, because they're the biggest brokers in the United States, but also two brokers just for commercial. And this guy in some state sent me this thing. I'm on his list, and someone put down 40%, and they bought a $20 million building that he financed. They financed 6%. It was an apartment building, but I kind of laughed because they put down 40%, which is cool. But the thing is, the least you can put down is the way to go. Generally, the standards, a lot of people for commercial put down 20, 25, 30%. But the way with still a low rate and still make it profitable on a 5-plex or higher, that's 5 units, or still work it. Now, it's going to vary in different parts of the West Coast and East Coast. Unless countryside more, it's going to go up. But like Washington State, Spokane average price range for a home went over $400,000. Okay, Coeur d'Alene went up too. Coeur d'Alene's about an hour away. So everything you mean, there's deals, but this is that the whole Northwest has gone way up. So it's changed in California too, and even the interior in those states. Utah was up there too, as far as the amount went up. But you get further into some parts of the Southeast, you're good to go. The Northeast is kind of screwy because you can see all the stuff because there's no secrets in. The biggest thing is the little stuff and how to put the game together to get finance, because most people aren't paying cash. The thing is, you're conserving your cash. This is why I like about Grant Cardone. He talked about it in a video a few weeks ago, because I watch his stuff all the time when he does a live video. And he talked through, because I've done this. And basically what it is, you're basically trying to put the least amount down and try to get the lowest rate possible to get the lowest payments with your taxes and insurance and all that other stupid stuff that goes along with it. And so you go ahead and you have the dollars out to pay for all the stuff in your payment and blah, 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 blah. And basically the yours, and you're trying to keep this spread. And so these are things you're looking for. Thing is, on a building, and I agree with Grant on this one, is that you can buy the building even if it's at full price. So what? As long as you have control of the building. Because the thing is, when you're looking at the leases, you need a contract. You want to look at the last 5 years. You want to see vacancies were in it in the last 5, be able to know what it is if it ever comes up short. The whole is to go ahead and lease all of it. Smaller units, Generally, a fourplex different by like a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15 unit. Generally, most of the time, you can usually get most of those rented out, usually 100%. The cool part is leases is you want to see how many are on a yearly deal and when that's going to be up, because you basically, your whole goal is to do month to month so you can raise the rents. Now, there's a kind of a change going on in the industry, and there's a lot of change going on right in the apartment industry. You need to look at is sometimes some people aren't doing a yearly lease now. Some of them are doing month to month cities now. That's become kind of a new thing. There's some that are getting away from the yearly lease deal. Even some, they might do a year lease, but after that, they'll just keep it month to month, which is normal. A lot of them that are doing just month to month tracks, if they don't like you, they can boot you out, kind of to check you out. This is a new thing now in different parts of the country. So that, and a lot of people look about it, they kind of keep it under the what else is new. So when you're looking at buying, the families, it's going to be different in different parts of the country. It's going to be different. The cap rates are going to be different. In the areas in the East and West Coast, Chicago area, community rates can go down. You might be 3.5%, 4%, 4.5%. A lot of areas get 5%, 6%. So these are just things to look at. But the thing is, if you have, let's say you have a sixplex that you bought for, let's say, for example, from Bucks, you've got 3.5, 3.3 1/4, 3.75% interest rate on it, and whatever. You got a little payment, you have your insurance and taxes, everything's into the deal, and it's this, and you're going to make extra whatever you're going to make a month on it. And basically you have nobody on a lease, everybody's month to month, and basically you could raise the rents $100, $150, $200. Some might, you can turn around and lease it to somebody else, but generally they're not going to leave. Generally, if you raise it $100, $150, $200, most of the time people aren't going to leave. It's going to hurt them a little bit, especially if that's kind of the way it goes. But you want to increase that bottom line, that increases your yearly, that makes it more valuable. Especially when they're going ahead and you're calculating it out. So if you refinance in a couple of years, you can pull some cash out and keep it rented and still make it profitable. This is a Grant Cardone talks about it all the time. I think nobody else is talking about this on a national. Not too many people of it, because I've watched different quote unquote real estate gurus that don't know squat because they don't know anything about finance. This is a problem with a lot of the real estate agents out there, and because they don't know anything about real estate. Mortgage brokers, real estate agents don't know anything about finance. So keep this in mind when you're financing. Go to a mortgage broker, don't go to a bank. Mortgage brokers are fast, efficient, and their appraisers are better. That's a problem. Why I'm bringing this up. Apartment buildings, generally, those will usually appraise at fourplex is different because it falls under the single family residential home. Okay, and remember that the single family residential and the duplex, triplex, fourplex, 95%, let's say over 90% of all the mortgages right now in that family home area, a lot of bank. I mean, not bank, but I mean a U.S. government guarantee. So if you look at it from that way, they're always trying to CYA everything. And there's a new bubble that's here in the near future. It's going to be a lot worse than 2008. And they're saying that at the same time, there'll be opportunity. In a lot of the rich areas, it'll be different. It'll be the same. It'll be a knockout, drag out deal. And there'll be opportunities for you guys to make some. Remember, this is a long-term game. It's a long-term deal. Location-wise, on apartments is kind of variable. On a decent road, a lot of traffic, high traffic area is good. Or if it's off a high, pretty close to one. If you're near a shopping center, it's pretty good. Next to a big strip mall or a high population density area where there's a lot of strip malls and supermarkets and that kind of stuff. Those are things you need to look at when you buy. So a lot of you used to call, if you have a realtor or a real estate agent, that knows what the hell they're talking about. These are things that you need to look at as far as that goes. And a lot of times, if the realtor's worth half their grain of salt, they'll know some of this. They're probably not going to know much about financing unless they own a bunch of properties. And I'm not just talking, I'm talking, they own apartment buildings or commercial buildings. They understand it. And there's a big difference too. You have a lot of real estate agents that'll do residential only, some that only do commercial. You one that does residential and commercial, and you have a lot of, they quote unquote specialize. This is the game that they play in commercial real estate. They try to play that game. Residential agents try to play a game too full of crap. The only thing is that a lot of the commercial agents stick to commercial and try to play it off like, oh, all I do is apartment buildings. They try to play these stupid games. And a lot of times too, they're just full of crap. And any of those agents will sell you anything. And residential agents the same way. As the commercial guys don't know anything about residential. Residential a lot of times don't know anything about commercial. You need to know that one that knows both. Reasons why. If you're buying an apartment building, because the one that knows, they're going to know everything about all the housing in the area. They're going to know what if there's new buildings or spec builds for housing going up. There's a fleet of fourplexes going up that knows about. Not know any of this because they don't do houses. They don't know anything. They may hear it in the news, but they don't know that there's Joe real estate or her real estate agent's office, him or her office. They got a real estate area that has a builder, a small time builder that's putting up 15 units, and it's going to be 3 miles away. And you're buying this apartment. It's going to be 1 mile from there, but it's on a major road, arterial, blah, 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 blah. And it has a grocery shopping center anchored, and it's Joe Grocery Store, which is a national chain. And down the street, they've got a Walmart and Dollar General, Dollar Tree, whatever. What I'm saying is you have to look at all this stuff when you're buying, because the thing is you're looking at it to go up on the road. Also, too, this makes it more advantageous for you because in commercial, when they're what they don't tell you is the underwriters. They go ahead and you're financing a deal. The underwriters look at the area. They get an area map and they go right on Google and they look at it and they'll see, because see, the underwriters used to have 2 or 3 person write-off in the underwriters. This is one area a lot of people don't know about, underwriter game. And so the loan officer puts it together. They collect everything. They give everything to their processor unless they're processing their own loan. Then it goes to the first underwriter, and then it'll be a second and third underwriter taken. When the 2008 happened, you had to get 4 or 5 underwriter sign-off residential loan. The banks were the same way, or the commercial companies the same way when you're doing apartment building. They were leaning commercial because people were putting money down, but in the residential, they weren't that lenient. So it leveled off quite a few years ago. About 4 years ago, it leveled off more. They started going more into the subprime, non-prime stuff. It changed. Now it's really changed. But if they have a bubble strike again, like 2008, it's going to change stuff. So these are things you got to look for when you're looking at apartment buildings. You're looking at, how can I finance it? You want to look at the 5 years, the books. You need to put in your contract. Make sure your real estate agent puts it on an addendum. You want to look at the last 5 years. I don't care if it's a fourplex, triplex. I say don't buy a triplex or duplex. Buy a fourplex. Don't do it. You want to look at, if you're buying an apartment building, it's a 5 unit or more. You want to look at the last 5 years. Also you want to make sure you check the area. But back to the last 5 years. Also, you want to see the leases. That's something that you want to see. A lot when you're buying a 5 unit or apartment building, you got to write up the offer first, include everything in addendum. You'll probably have to put an earn down right off the bat. That's generally what it is. Remember, commercials all wax and residential. It's a whole different deal. The same. Commercial is a lot more brutal than residential. The agents are more brutal, and they'll try to screw the other agent. In commercial, that's how it works. It's a real fight fest. Sometimes it's not so bad. I've been in some fight messed up before that are commercial broker properties. It gets dirty. One time I was doing a building a long time ago. I put together a deal, and my client there with the other agent, we were talking about it, and the settlement tried to tell my buyer that he had a loan officer to do this, this, and this. I told that agent, "Whoa, this deal is dead." Me and my client, we got up and walked, and I threatened to take the agent to the state because you can't do that kind of stuff. A lot of times in commercial that get that dirty, and it's in your face type of stuff. So you have to be aware of that doing commercial deals. Any commercial deals, you have to be totally aware of this and cognizant of this. Residential can get dirty too, but not like this dirty. And you'll see a lot of addendum changes sometimes don't, especially on bigger deals. You see a lot of addendum changes, change the contracts completely. And there's a lot of other things too. Keeping this small, generally we're kind of keep this between, the 5 unit, let's say 20 unit, 15 unit, 10 unit. Let's keep all, because most out there, first time investors, first time buyers, you're buying it a different kind of ball of wax. So you're learning the game, and I'm here to kind of teach you that game to see how it works, so you can go ahead and start putting deals together. Now, there's a different residential on the non-prime. Now you do have some flexibility more. So let's say you find a fourplex that's a for sale by owner, and the owner owns most of the property, has a low mortgage or no mortgage on it because they're out there, or your real estate agent might know an off-market deal, or maybe someone's already listed and they don't advertise it with seller carryback. So you could get away with it on a residential deal. You might be able to put 5-10% down and have the seller take 20% and you finance the rest. You used to be able to do it basically a full 100%, but you can't do that anymore like you used to. And so that's something to look for, the carrybacks. As far as doing a buyer's option on there, that's a dangerous deal. One of these days I'll talk to you that. It's better to get a finance buyer's option, essentially the option to buy. Basically, when you have really, really bad credit, you can't do anything. But the thing is, you can do a seller carryback and get around that, and it's a lot better. Even though the seller will be in second position, and you're paying interest on that to seller, which is going to be different from your first, which is going to be with the bank, mortgage company, whoever on the paper. It's a different deal. Now, remember, regular bank will not do a carryback. You have to have a mortgage broker, but most mortgages only do vanilla loans. In other words, that's conventional FHA, VA, if they're approved with FHA, VA, because it's hard to get approval like that. Also, too, they might do some Alt-A stuff, which is just a little bit more flexible than the conventional. That's all they have because that's all that mortgage is approved with. So a mortgage company you work with may only be approved with 20 lenders. That's one question the mortgage broker. How many lenders are you approved with? Do you do non-prime loans? Subprime, just say non-prime. Do you do non-prime loans? Ask them that. Do you do commercial loans? That's another way for when you're checking out mortgage brokers. Now, if you're just buying a fourplex, which falls under the single family residential, that's a different deal. They've got more flexibility. But see, most of these mortgage brokers don't know anything about commercial. They barely know how to do the paperwork just in residential, even though they took their tests. They have a national mean servicing number. But the thing is, who cares? It doesn't mean anything, because the thing is, they still don't know much about loans. Those tests aren't designed for that. That's knowledge that you have to pick up with the broker owner or whoever. And so these are the questions you need to ask when you're going ahead and you're doing a deal. So essentially, when you're doing a deal, so let's tighten up a fourplex, you still want to look at the last 5 years. You can get it, or 3 years, depending on how long the owner had it. And you want to look at the book on that, see what the rents are. You want to check it out. You want to see what the leases look like. Same thing, 6, 10-plex, whatever, same kind of stuff. Financing is going to be different for the single family home. And why I'm saying a fourplex, because the thing is, if you can get it your first time out, get it. They're not a bad way to start, especially if you're bidding out and you're new. No big deal. Even if you've only had a couple properties, it's not a bad way to go. Now, if you're an investor, you got cash, have some money, you still want to leverage it, the financing. That's how a lot of people get rich. That's how I've known a lot of people got rich in Seattle area because we're able to do the leverage game. And Grant Cardone talks all the time, the leverage game. The thing is, probably the only trainer out there because he owns four. He's soon going to buy real estate, so it puts him. Let's see about who probably 12,000. I think he has over 10,000. I know he has over 10,000 now. You talked about it a couple months ago. So pretty soon it'll probably be 12,000 plus units or more, maybe 15,000. I think he said his goal is to get 20,000 units. And he's purchasing right now about $1 billion, almost close to it, according to what I was reading and stuff. It was all over the news. But anyways, that's a whole different kind of game. But he'll tell you the same stuff on his broadcast. That's why I like him so much, because no one talks about this. If you're a real estate agent or mortgage broker, you may own a house and that may be it. But my question is, how come you haven't bought a fourplex and buy a fourplex, at least have an apartment building? How come you bought a fiveplex or sixplex? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're a high-end agent, you're doing a lot of deals. That's a question I would ask you, because I've already owned them. I used to get those apartment buildings. I convert them into condos. And me and my cousin, if we get them, convert them, boom, sell them, make a big profit and walk. We did it right in the Seattle area. So I've done that. So I've walked the walk because I can talk the talk because I've already done it. So what I'm saying to you is that getting apartment buildings is a good first step. I'm just going to pick between a house and an apartment building. I'll buy the apartment house and a fourplex. I'll buy the fourplex first. The only thing is the first house I bought was in a foreclosure process. Of course, I refinanced it 3 times, so I worked it. But that's if I knew what I knew now. Yeah, buying the fourplex is what I've done first. And so I'm saying to you is buy that first. Even if you buy that first in conjunction with buying a house, buy the other house a few months later on, just say that you're living there, you're moving out. And if you just have to put that in your application. And you're not actually really lying because you live there. So you figure it's going to be 30 days plus to close your house. So say you haven't lived there, but you've owned it 4.5, 5 months. Now you're getting a house. So you fit into the 6-month corridor. So you're good. So you just, tell them the applications is the deal, blah, 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 go. If they ask for, sometimes underwriter will come back and ask for basically to write some letter on it. Fine, write it up. So we're moving out. Somebody else, this is why we want to buy a house, blah, 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 blah. And then that'll suffice them. And I've had people do that before. So underwriter care because they want to lend the money out. Depends how much heat they're getting. Right, loans. Problems after 2008 got hit for a while, say up to 2012. Things started to loosen up. It was kind of bad. So they were more leery about it, and then things started loosening up. Now it's a lot more loose now. You can do. They're doing some foreclosure bailouts type of stuff. You can go with 500. Thing about California. California has more lenders than everybody else. So the mortgage brokers got big grab bags they can go to. They got a lot of lenders if the mortgage broker scored away. Oregon, Washington's pretty good. Idaho's pretty good. Southwest, it's kind of a variable, and that's kind of all over the board. That's Texas and Arizona and basically all the way to the Midwest. And Midwest is a variable too. North, upper Southeast, Northeast, it's different. Virginia's got some laws on it. Actually, North Dakota does too. So does Illinois. So there's some title stuff. But when you're buying an apartment your first time out, getting the fourplex is easier to get because the financing is easier. So it's less hassle, less stuff you have to do. Remember, there's not a perfect deal. Even the deals that are all cash are not perfect. They're just not. Okay. And the cap rates are going to be wildly different depending on where you're at. So if you're in a really high-speed area, sorry, I adjust my glasses. If you're in a really high-speed area, like Salt Lake area, Phoenix, where the areas are really going up, Seattle, Portland, Bay Area. Well, Bay Area is still pretty high. If you're in Nashville, stuff's going to go up. So you're looking at 3 or 4 counties around each of the cities. But there's still stuff you can buy. It's close enough to the direct shot of the downtown area of Nashville or Salt Lake or whatever. So there's opportunities to nail stuff you could take because rents are going to keep going. More and more people bail out of the east and west coast as they move into the southwest, midwest, and some parts of the southeast. So it's like Atlanta. Atlanta, you have Buckhead area in North Atlanta, Fulton County. You got areas outside of there, and then you've kind of got the rest of Fulton County. So Atlanta's kind of a weird city because it's divided up in zones, which is kind of strange, but that's just how they got it. So there's opportunity everywhere, and these are things for you to look at. Actually, like Mississippi, some parts of Mississippi are just kind of surprising, but they are because a lot more business are moving there for tax purposes. Texas, of course, there's a lot of areas you can go to. It's so big, but there's a lot of opportunity. I remember when the market crashed, there was a lot of apartment buildings up for sale in Texas all over the place. It was bad. It was worse than a lot of areas, but now a lot of those are sold. Now those things have just gone way up in price. So way up. We're talking double, triple, quadruple price, a lot of them. So there's opportunity, but think small in the beginning as you try to go save further into 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 unit apartment building. This is just a startup. I'm just talking about, first timers, investors that are just beginning, real estate agents, whether you're a cherry or you're been around as an agent for a while that's making money, and maybe you're as an agent making $250,000 a year, $150,000 a year, $500,000, probably not too many a year, which I know is not the case. You could do it. Get yourself a fourplex. That when I always say this, I'll say this again. If you're a buyer, an investor, first question ask a real estate agent. I don't care if they do residential or commercial, what you want is how many properties have they owned? Ask that. How many properties now? Ask that. Oh, I own a house. Have you owned how many properties have you owned in the past? I've owned 15. Like what? These are questions you want to ask. Agent or it was a referral. See, the reason I ask this is because of properties basically going to make them better because they're going to understand finance more. Why I ask that if the agent, when you ask them, if you own residential and commercial, find out. Have they owned a commercial building? Have they owned a apartment building? Have you owned a fourplex? Have you owned a fiveplex? Find out. And I don't consider land's a whole animal. Land, if you're going to buy it, building on it, or commercial building, or put up warehouses, you're going to buy it right off. If you're buying a land to build on a viewfront or waterfront property, that's buying land is not a good investment unless you have basically another backup plan of something you're going to do with it. Now, I knew a guy in the Seattle area, and he used to play football at UCLA a long time ago. The guy's probably 72 now, and he's $400 or $500 million. Is another guy I know because I sold him some buildings in the past. Anyways, this guy buys waterfront properties only, basically in Washington, Oregon, and California. He started buying I think he said in 69, 70. He had some money he got from his grandparents. He started buying waterfront property. He owned waterfront property all up and down the West Coast. We're talking the Cherry areas. And so he built houses on them, sold them, made monster profits. He sold some of the properties off. I saw him a few years ago, ran into him in Seattle in 2017. And he still has a bunch of properties that he has. He still has a bunch of land, and he has a bunch he's developing. Somebody's selling it off, but he still has it. But it's all Cherry property in Malibu, Beverly Hills, which is an exception, Santa Monica, up on the 101. I mean, he's got the real Cherry properties, and all these people are EV personalities you see in some of these stations. They've talked to him, get him to sell. He laughed them right out the door, said, no thanks. And they keep trying to come up. Portland, same way, Seattle, same way, in Bellevue, Seattle. He still has waterfront properties that he hasn't sold. Some he built, because he's a builder too. Some he hasn't. So they're talking, phenomenal amount of properties. So, but like I said, I'm not really getting into that. Now, for apartment building, if you're going to buy the land and you're going to put an apartment building up there for an investor, it's a good way to go. If you can do it. It's just one of those things. And one of my relatives were looking at a property in 2017. The deal didn't work out, but it was somewhere in the Puget Sound region. And it was a good where you could put up, I think it was 60, 78 apartment buildings on there, or you could put up apartment units are better, but townhouses aren't bad because you can sell them at a high profit. So deal didn't work out, but we broker, she sold out so for like $2 million. The land, now they're putting up an apartment building. If they put up 70, 80 units, might even be able to put up 100 because the city they need more housing, so the city's being more flexible. So that's a kind of a deal. I'll talk to sometime about building because I've done all that stuff. And so these are different areas to look at. But back to an apartment building for a first-time investor, estate agent, or mortgage broker. These are things that you need to look at. A lot of it's down to finance. Even people like got cash. Paul Allen all the time. He was no fool, and you want to use his money. His money. I remember he was talking about on some news thing a long time ago where he got $1 billion loan from Deutsche Bank. All they do is send the paperwork. It was a handshake deal. There's $1 billion for this, and that with it to build whatever he was doing. When you have that kind of juice, because you're multi-billion, or 60 billion at the time, you can do stuff like that. But they still like to leverage debt. So leveraging is a good thing, and I'm all for that. Is leveraging debt, and I think is a good thing. And so essentially, we're leveraging debt now. So a single family home, a duplex, triplex, rule those out. Buy a fourplex. You got to go further out to buy a fourplex to get one. Do it. Right now, the rates are so artificially low. They are going to kick the rates up because there's too much cash in the system. So they're eventually going to raise the rates again. Like I said, when I started in 95, rates were way, way higher than they are now. You're talking 7.75%, 8.5%. That's a kind of convention. You're doing zero down loans. They were way high. The all higher. It was way higher. So we were refinancing at 7.5%. I know because I did a ton of those loans. So different deal than it is now. So you manage. But like I said, get a mortgage broker. So let's go over this again. And when you're Plex, it's going to be easy to buy, a lot more easier to buy than buying a 5-unit or more. Different type of finance. The fourplex is going to fall under single family residential financing. There's a lot of financing, the FHA, VA. Stay away from the FHA if you can, because it's more of a pain in the ass. You have to come up with more paperwork. There's the Fannie Mae 3%, 5% down. There's some other conventional 3%, 5% down. There's some Alt-A. There's zero down. There's no doc. There's stated loans right now that you guys can get into it 3%, 5%, 10%. But even the zero down loans too right now you can get. You have to have some assets to do it, but okay. So a 401k or have some stocks or bonds or whatever. These are ways you can work it. Even if you have cruddy credit, you can still go down to a 550 and still have to put down 3 to 5, 10%. Let's just say 5 to 10%. Still score it away. Get yourself a four. If you have a house, unless you're buying a foreclosure or you're getting it, it's 60, 70% on the dollar. Some areas you can get that, some you can't. Maybe 80% of the dollar. Then buy the house, maybe kind of refinance it down the road, or you can flip it. But this is about building. You want to keep your properties. Some you're going to flip. Profit margins are high, but keep. The quick flip and dump days are pretty much over. Last broadcast, I talked about postcard marketing for investors and buyers and agents and stuff like that. That's a whole different beast. So when you look at Plex or the 5-plex, it gets down to financing, easier to finance. 5-plex, you're going to have to put down, you can put down 10% or more down at least. If you can put down 25%, that's good. They're still going to be low. It's going to be a non-owner occupied. okay, with a fiveplex or more. So you have to be cognizant of that. You can do estated deals. I've got 666, excuse me, FICO, and it's not a full doc loan. And there's no doc deals where I can up to 85% LTV. Mortgage brokers need to ask them this. Mortgage broker, do you do commercial in addition to residential? If your mortgage broker says I only do residential, get up and walk. Thanks for meeting you. You need a mortgage broker that does residential and commercial. That's what you want. When you're a real estate agent you're dealing with, unless you're buying it off market or doing it for sale by owner or however you're doing it, then you get an attorney to help you write it up or a competent real estate agent. If the real estate agent doesn't do residential commercial, then walk. Now, the reason I say this is a lot of commercial agents don't know anything about residential. A lot of the residential agents that just do anything about commercial. No offense, but you don't know anything. You're susceptible to only the fields that you're really in. And you say you specialize in this, it's all full of it because they'll anything they can. They lie about that a lot. You want an agent that does both. You know, if you have a cherry agent that's between 1 to 4 years, that's usually a cherry because they still haven't done a lot. That does both, that's fine. Aggressive, because I was aggressive, and I've always been aggressive as being an agent or mortgage broker. And that's a good thing. You know, and you know the cherry or it's a referral and you want to give him a chance or him or her a chance, you know, then that's up to you. A lot of times, especially in commercial, a lot of times the broker owners or the designated broker of that branch or company, a lot of times they don't know much about commercial. They know more about residential. I'm just being straight up with you. A lot of times they don't know anything about finance either, except for residential. So these are just stuff you may have to navigate. So it's up to you. Now I have to give a shout out to Remax on this guy for being a big monster or, you know, international company. But one thing about this, which is true, they do have agents that have been doing it longer than everybody else. If you do it, a lot of the agents in those offices you've been 10 years plus. I have to give a shout out to Remax for that because that's actually true. Statistically, the National Association of Realtors, I've seen some other stuff too. I saw it recently, and that's kind of true. I think it's longer. I think it's about 12 years now. So a lot of those agents, like at Remax, even though I don't like, a lot of those agents usually do rental and commercial. Sit upon it. I'm not big into franchises, but National Association of Realtor fees and all the other crap they want you to. That's why I like independent agents with 8% agents, because they're going to work harder to do better because they want to get paid. So they'll go the extra mile. I'm not saying the ones on split. I'm just saying you generally overall. I mean, I've worked for only a couple short period of time you balance, and I always was, and that was in the beginning of my career. So I was also an agent all the time, and then whenever the fee was when I closed the deal. Now, why this? Because they might go the extra mile for you to do stuff. Most Remax agents are all 100% for a franchise. Other majors aren't, or some stupid or split fee. The reason I'm saying is because most of the ones on split generally, I'm not saying this all, but a lot of times they're not going to go the extra mile to do it. The Remax wants to get paid because they're 100%. They got to pay their monthly fee, whatever it is. And I'm just saying that for a franchise overall, and a lot of charity agents when they start, they'll go direct to a franchise, which isn't bad. But I've seen agency, even if to get to 100% starting off, even if you're working another job. Why I'm telling you this is an investors, first-time buyers, second or third-time buyers. If you're a real estate agent or mortgage broker, these are things you need to look at when looking at an agent. Unless that agent's been referred to you. Okay, the agent's referred to you, came from a friend, family member, and then it means there's going to be immediate trust. That's cool, no problem with it. But if you're looking around for an agent, you're calling in off an ad, you postcard in the mail, you saw an internet ad for a house or apartment building or whatever. These things you need to look at. These are questions you need to ask. Okay, I'm putting this stuff out there, but I'm going to tell you stuff you don't want to hear because, like I said, I've already been around the block, and I've blown most of these agents out of the water, or real estate agents or mortgage brokers. I did way more deals than all these people combined, a lot of them, so they're full of it. And I've taught some mortgage brokers how the game works. And a lot of this has gone to finance. And so as you, as a consumer or a first-time buyer, investor, need to know how it works. This is going to be your key to really killing it. And I've been a mortgage broker for a long time. Real estate agent too. I had no one, when I first started out, no one showed me how to do any of this stuff. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is to show people how to do this stuff so you can do it. Because there's a lot of misnomers out there, and I just don't think the public in general they're getting screwed. That's why I like Grant Cardone so much, because he talks about it in black and white terms, because that's what it is. But remember, in real estate, there's a big charcoal gray areas in there, huge charcoal gray areas in there. So there's a lot of areas you can work as far as financing. So that's why I was bringing up for residential. If your credit's bad, doesn't mean you can't get a property. You know what I mean? If you're buying it on an option to buy, which can be a dangerous road if it's not written right. Most of these agents don't know how to write it, or the multiple paperwork isn't good. And when you get to escrow, you have a competent LPO officer, which is an escrow agent or title company. Anyways, so you're looking at that way. Some are land contracts where you go. Some contracts. These are just some areas where you're doing a seller carry, which is the seller holding some paper, or you're getting it financed. Finance through XYZ mortgage company. Stay away from the banks. The banks cannot help you. Banks cannot do any high-speed stuff. Can't do it. Banks are low drag. They take forever. They have to have a box in a box, a perfect fit. If it's not perfectly fit, they're not going to be able to do it. Now, Mutual, before they went down and chased bottom a long time ago, they had some alternate A stuff, which was pretty good. Now, in the secondary market, they bought some subprime companies, annihilated subprime companies back in the day. Used to do a lot of cool stuff, especially on seller carrybacks. Come back just in a different form than non-prime. So there's all these different avenues when you're buying a plex or a triplex or a house. Okay, if you're going to buy your first property, buy a fourplex. That's my suggestion. Buy the fourplex, unless you're getting a house in foreclosure or you're buying it from a friend where buy the fourplex first. For an investor, or if you're starting out, you have these, get a fourplex, 6, 7 plates. That's a multifamily apartment building, and you go that. There's some different avenues around. You can do state loans on those, and you can do no doc loans on those. The rates, a lot of those are full doc loans. It's a different, you do in a corporation, LLC, you want to buy it under, because they're going to, if you have questions, talk to your accountant, talk to your tax attorney, real estate attorney. Real estate attorneys probably went past them. Questions on it. Ask your real estate agent. Real estate agent doesn't know the answer. Tell them to go find the answer. Okay. Make sure you have a competent mortgage broker, like a real estate agent, that understands residential and commercial. Most you deal with only do residential. Okay, a lot only do houses. They don't know anything about triplex or fourplex. Try to play it off. They don't know anything about it. Let's doing it a while and they own some problems. That's why I tell you to ask that question. And this recap I'm saying right now is to ask that question: how many properties have you owned? How many properties do you own now? What type of properties have you owned? Land doesn't really count unless you're going to build on it. Okay, and so kind of rule that out. As far as that, how many houses, how many fourplexes, triplexes owned, how many multifamilies have they owned? I know this one agent that bought this property in Seattle. It's called South area, a place called Tukwila. It's right next to Seattle, about 15 miles out from downtown, 20 miles, probably 20. Anyways, there's a big mall there called South Center Mall. It's one of the biggest malls in the entire West Coast and west of the Mississippi. It's one of the biggest malls, one of the most profitable malls in the United States. And it's owned by this giant house. And I know the lawyer that's done all the deals on the mall, and he works for the mall operator. So he's one of the state attorneys in Washington State. Anyways, when I knew this real estate agent that owned this big apartment building near the mall, and a long time ago, he was selling it for $5 million. He sold the property at full price. Now the same property now that he sold off in 2000, property now is worth $12 million. Okay, so I mean it's gone with price, and he more than 10x that one. Oh, you 100x that one plus. So there are deals out there, and these are things you're looking for. Even if the market gets hit, which it will on a bubble, it's going to burst here before too long. Because there are another debt, default debt, whatever you swap debt, whatever you want to call it. But there'll be opportunity to do it. But the thing is, if you're renting your property, it's a long-term thing, and you have to look at it as a long-term. If you're buying that 5-plex, 6-plex, just say 5-plex up to a 15-plex, 20-plex, and especially if you're a new investor or you're an investor but only got into buying an apartment building, you're going to have to put money out. Most of the time in residential now, you're going to have to put money out. Now, closing costs on a commercial deal, a lot of times you might be able to get the seller, depending on the funder, closing costs. A lot of times you have to pay your own costs. Okay. And make sure you see it, and make sure you have an LLC buy. A lot of people don't do this. Make sure you see it's not that much to do it, depending on what date. When you're buying your residential, basically buy your forks in your name, just buy the damn thing. If you do get a payoff, yeah, you can transfer it into an LLC or bust commercial property. A lot of people buy them in an LLC, and they'll put that into a South Dakota trust. One day I'll talk more about South Dakota trust or some trust in Wyoming. South Dakota trust is the best thing you buy in the United States. Right now, they're basically impenetrable. But if you own a bunch of properties, that's a good thing you want to do is put it in a trust. And legally, it keeps you out of the lurch because they've had all these lawsuits, and the federal and state lawsuits always lose every time. So one day I'll talk about trust more and offshore trusts, especially it's good for real estate. So these are things you need to look at, and if you're a real estate agent and you're a mortgage broker, you guys need to be looking at buying something for yourself, because you come across deals all the time. That's why if you're an investor, first-time buyer, your buyer's bought a couple times, a good real estate agent that's good on a decent-sized office, real estate office, there's going to be deals that are going to come across that you might be able to sell off, especially in hot to get a property. Even if you pay full price, but at least you got. Yes, some markets you're going to get them down, but it's not really that much big deal, really overall, unless you're going to get it 5 or 10% under value, or even 15 or 20%. In some areas, the U.S. can't, and there's a lot of factors in that. But just get the property. You get the property, so what? You're playing a long game anyways, unless you're buying houses and you're doing a spin and dump. Let's say you buy a 15-unit, a 10-unit apartment building, and 2 and 3 bedroom units in it, and it's in a good area, and you're going to turn around and get your real estate attorney, and you're going to turn around and you have a contractor, or you're a contractor, or you know a lot about building, turn around, you have your real estate attorney write up all the stuff, and you're going to go ahead and convert it to condos. You're going to make a monster profit. In a lot of areas, it's happening in a lot of big cities on the East and West Coast. And that's another angle. One day I'll get into that more as where you can work it. As long as it's a 10-unit or more, something you can work. So there's a place called West Seattle. I remember long back, this was like 2006, there was a 12-unit apartment building. I knew the owner, and turned around and sold out the apartment building. And this bought it. It was a nice brick apartment building, bedroom bath in West Seattle. And they turned around the condos, sold it off, and the investor made a monster profit on it. He went in there, juiced up each property and sold it. And I knew the agent that listed it because I almost sold one. They made a monster profit on it. Okay, I think it was 2005, 2004, somewhere in there. And you drive by, still see the property. Never see it go for sale. Rarely. I mean, I think I've seen 2 properties in there, even in 2017 when I went back to Seattle. Basically, it was still the same way it was, and there were still the same people living there, and they had so few sales in there, comps on it, because there's so few sales. The sales are spread by years. People like living there because it's close to proximity or whatever. So that's because an area thing to look at when you're buying apartment buildings is in the area. Do you know the area? You know what the deal is. Only go further out of your comfort zone. The you get out of your comfort zone, the more deals you'll be able to get. So especially buying these fourplexes, houses too, but especially when you're buying apartment buildings. You know, also too, you get the apartment buildings, you have to look at the area. What's the traffic like? You know, usually apartments, generally traffic areas, usually a strip mall around. There's next to grocery stores, restaurants. You have to look at all that stuff when you're buying. I would always tell people drive anywhere from 5 to 10 blocks around the apartment. When you're right at the apartment building, now this doesn't apply so much to family residence. When you're buying a fourplex, sometimes you can't without because it might be all rented. So you might have to write up a purchase sale to look at it. When you write up a commercial deal, don't be expecting at it. You know, look around the property, but be casual about it. Because a lot of times you'll see in the realtor notes, a lot of times these properties don't know it's being sold. So you don't want to disturb it. But a lot of times you can't look at the property until after the purchase sale has been accepted and you do an action. Make sure you always get on your property. Let me say this again. Get inspection on your property. I don't care. This one area on a house is a little bit different. But if you're buying a fourplex or if you're buying a fiveplex or more, make sure you get an inspection on the property. Even if you're buying a house or triplex or duplex, just get an inspection. Now, in a hot market on a house, you know, I would still, if you can get the inspection, get it. Sometimes, a lot of times, houses go in hot markets, so do pre-inspection before you write an offer. Great. This has happened in Seattle, Portland a lot, area, LA, San Diego, even in the Northeast, this has happened a lot. Boston, basically Dover, Hartford, New York, Philadelphia. A lot of these areas you can read about it because it's all online. A lot of the stuff is happening. Parts of Florida too, in Miami. But a lot of times I still tell you an inspection, it's way out of a deal, but also you need to know what the property is. In an apartment building, a fiveplex or more, 5 unit or more, you're generally not going to be able to look at the property. Generally, to get a basically signed, sealed deal with the seller to look at it, to go in and check it out. There's always going to be issues on it. So when you look at when you're looking at an inspection on a commercial deal, there's always going to be back issues. Look for big stuff, not small stuff. A lot of times I always don't get caught up with the small, stupid stuff. It's just you're going to have to fix it anyways. It's just the way it goes. Look at the big stuff, you know, big stuff like HVAC stuff, or you know, you have, you know, some major plumbing issues, the entire place or whatever. A lot of stuff that is going to be small and petty. If you get caught up in that, you know, then you shouldn't be buying anything. It's just happened. Wear and tear is just part of the game. You can blow off some stuff you do later on. It's just eventually you'll get it done. So you need to look at all this stuff when you're doing it. There's a lot of stuff I've gone over here just as far as apartment buildings. If you have, go ahead and email me. Also, to subscribe to subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. I know this is new. I'm just keep cranking out videos and get more and more people signed up as I keep building it out. Basically, this is a knowledge game, and a lot of people don't have the knowledge I have because they haven't done as many deals as I've have. And I'm talking residential, commercial, and I'm talking also too mortgages, residential, commercial. A lot of people haven't done the amount of deals I've had. Now, remember this one thing too, is that my area, when I was hitting pricing for a long time, my kind of doubling the deals is basically the lower or the bottom rung of the rental market in the mid market, and eventually as time went on, I got up into the high end stuff, but that wasn't I did apartment buildings. Basically a lot of times I did the smaller apartments because I had a lot of investors, and it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Same thing with my cousin. So, and the reason that is because of what market target that I was hitting was a lot different. Now you have some people that go after the big game. Good, you can go do it, and you can waste your time and all that. Good luck. In the commercial world, it's a different deal. Commercial world, for commercial bros, it's a different game because they're going to be all over the field. They might be leasing. I hate doing leases. I prefer those out because I hated doing them. But you might see an apartment unit, and then you might have a commercial building that's 1 million square feet, and they might have 100, 300 unit apartment building. For a commercial broker, it's potential. If it's going to be houses, they might have a fourplex, or duplex here and there, maybe houses. The one that's going to be all over the thing is, don't get too caught up in what they do. It's a lot of it's ego driven. You have to take the ego out. So you may, you may have an agent that's a bunch of BS. They'll list a $10 million home, $1,000 piece of dirt. So don't let that stuff fool you. The agent's confident. They have confidence. Don't care what they sell. I know a bunch of agents in Seattle area. Yeah, they do high-end properties because they've been doing 5 years plus, and basically they've got built-in markets. But they may do a lot of $1 million plus things, but they'll still do a $300,000, $250,000 condo because they were trying to get everything they can get because they want to make money. So you have to look at that too. How aggressive is your agent? How calm is your agent? How competent are the agent? Important if you're an investor, first-time buyer, second, fourth-time buyer, you're looking to buy stuff, is how aggressive they are, how competent. They're not deal killers. I hate agents that do this because their egos get in the way. And they're not deal killers. Don't feel question. You need a real estate attorney to check stuff out for you. Do not be afraid to go get a real estate attorney. You put out your $500,000, $2,000, whatever, just to have them on hand. Or if you have also, don't be afraid to ask your whether they're doing a and you're buying a fourplex or triplex, buy a fourplex, a house plex, or 10plex or 15 to 20plex. I know I'm keeping this small for the apartments. And don't be afraid of paperwork. Look at the purchase and sale agreement. Have them give you. It's just going to be blank, but just so you can read and understand it. If you have questions on it, write your notes. Go talk to your real estate attorney, or go talk to your real estate agent. Real estate agent doesn't know the answer. A broker or someone that understands it. Usually it'll be someone in your office that understands. A small real estate office, maybe so. If it's a bigger one, you have a better chance. Okay. And essentially what it is how comfortable you are with the real estate agent. A lot of times agents are going to call off an ad. Okay. So before about how long you've been in real estate. Great. How many properties have you owned? Great. You own now. What kind of properties have you owned in the past? What kind of properties do you own now? What's your general knowledge about finance of residential and commercial real estate? What do you know about, besides the conventional loans, FHA and VA, what do you know about alternate A financing? What do you know about non-prime financing, which is subprime? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask them. You may have an agent that might do it, but the deals they do, they have a lot of knowledge because they're doing other stuff. I know one agent in Seattle who trained me in the beginning because no one trained me at all, and he just showed me how to do some stuff in the beginning. And he's tired, and he's a multimillionaire. Okay. He still knocks out 30 to 40 deals a year, and he's still making $1 million plus a year because his average price range is almost about $1 million a pop. So it's about $30,000 a pop. That old school agent that taught me when I first started about real estate, he owned a bunch of real estate in different states. And I'm not just talking houses that he had, but he owned commercial buildings too. He owned apartment buildings. He owned some warehouses. He owned some commercial office buildings. He had them in Arizona, California, Oregon, and Washington. He even had some stuff in Boise. And he had a whole different career, and he was doing real estate on the side as a side career when he had, and he was still making, and this is back in 95. Now you got to remember, it's a different deal. But back then, he was still doing 6 figures a year in real estate, but he knew everything about residential finance, commercial finance. He understood the game really, really well. And that's who I learned from the beginning. But the thing is, before he got fired, but I had no one to show me anything because all the agents in my office were incompetent. No offense, but they didn't know anything. They were stupid. There was only one other guy in my office who's now totally retired. He's in his 80s. He owned a ton of commercial real estate besides residential, but he owned tons of estate. I mean, I'm talking a lot. He owned over 100 properties, and they were all, most of it was 65 apartment buildings. And so in the Seattle area further down from Seattle, but things from him, even though I didn't like him. But the thing is, but he knew his stuff. So the thing is, you're going to learn from different people. And so if you have an experienced agent that helps you out as far as that. And so these are to look at. Now, if you got questions for me, sign up and subscribe to my podcast as I'm building it out. If you have questions, go to nickforecast.com. I have nickforecast.com, generic site. Eventually, I'll change it some more, but I just want to put it something quick. Nick's Forecast. My email is below, nicksforecast@gmail.com. If you have questions, I don't care if you're a first-time buyer, you've bought a bunch of properties, if you're a mortgage broker. There's some other areas I can help you guys with a lot because most of the agents I talk to don't know anything. Anyways, even quote unquote say they're experienced and they may do over 100, 120 yield, that's 10 a month or more. They still don't know squat. They barely know anything about finance anyways. So, and I'm, but then I am, but I can because I've already been there, done that. So, I mean, my 4th year in real estate loans, I did 160 deals my 4th year. That's real estate mortgage, and I got up way after that. So no one's really got anything on me because I just annihilated everybody. So 95, yeah, my first year I was working another job doing this. I still did in the first 6 months. I still did over 20 deals. My second year when I started 96, eventually got on as an owner of a mortgage company. I went skyrocket. I went up to about 90 deals. I kept going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. But I ended up doing a lot more mortgage deals and real estate deals because it was a bulk thing, real estate deals too. And I did them across the board. And I had all these off-market deals that don't get reported on the multiple because I did a ton of loans, real estate deals too. And so, when I hear a lot of the stuff that you have people comparing themselves, this and this and that, who cares? The thing is, it's a real estate agent company. The real estate agent might only do 20 deals a year, another full-time job doing something else, but they might have a bunch of properties. And that person may be highly competent and they know finance and they know what they're doing, residential and commercial. I would tell you to find an agent that does residential and commercial. Pay a commission, good. Good. I like that. Good. I want to see the agents get things. You damn right, because you have to, you earn them. And the agents that are good are going to earn those commissions. And so when you're doing commercial, you're going to earn it. The resident going to earn it. So, I don't care if the real estate agent gets 3%, 3.5% on a deal, or mortgage brokers charging you 2, 3, 4%. When I used to do foreclosure bailouts, I charge anywhere from 8 to 14 points a deal. Some were foreclosure bailouts. I charge 15 to 20 points a deal. So, because I had the expertise no one else had. Even doing commercial loans now, when I'm doing them, commercial loans now, I'm still going to charge you. I might charge you 3 to 8 deal on a commercial deal. It just depends on what I'm doing because I've got the expertise. You don't like it, I don't want to work with you. And then you go on my list, don't ever call me again. So, when you're dealing with the high-end agent, I mean a high-end agent, in other words, they know their stuff, their time's valuable, like your time. Mortgage broker, same thing. Respect it. You respect that time because if you tick them off, you may not get a chance at some good deals they have that are off market. You're not going to see them. They're going to go to somebody else because you ticked them off. So it's a two-way street. And make sure that your agent, your real estate agent or mortgage broker, they're straight up with you about everything. They show you everything before you sign a deal. This is important. And I'm sorry to do this over and over, but you need to do this before you sign a contract. Make sure the agent gives you a cost mark. That's a CMA on the house, on the duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Buy a fourplex first. Or if you're buying a commercial building, have them do some type of CMA on it first. Different in commercial when they're looking at it and they're pricing it out is going to be different. But have them do a CMA and see what the comparables are. On a commercial deal, the comps can go out. It can go 5 counties out, 10 counties out when you're doing it. And generally in residential, it's not that way. They're usually pretty close to it. It's a difference with a fourplex or a triplex. It's a little bit different. A house, unless it's a super high-end waterfront property or a high-end house, it's going to be different. But most houses usually the comps in usually a couple blocks. If it's the same type of house, whether it's a daylight basement Rambler or Rambler level, a story, a multi-level, a 2-story with basement. I mean, I could just go on, but those are pretty much the primary ones. And so it's going to be a variable, okay? So when you're doing commercial real estate, an appraisal is going to be different. And when you're doing a residential appraisal is going to be different. Now, you're going to get charged, basically, commercial real estate, a lot of times you can pull your own credit report. The underwriter's going to pull one at the end, so don't screw with your credit. Don't buy anything when you're getting a problem. Residential, you may have to pay for it up front. You may have to pay for it up front. If you pay an upfront fee in commercial, that's just the way it goes. You may have to pay $1,000, $2,500 up front, non-refundable. When I do a commercial loan, it's non-refundable up front. You're paying it. The administrative fee, if you don't like it, don't come back to me because you're not worth my time to work with. When you work with me, if you need a loan done or my does it, we always charge a refundable fee up front. We give you 24 hours to put it in. And it'll vary. And that's just the way it is with commercial. Why I'm telling you this is so you're prepared for it. A lot of times mortgage brokers don't say anything about it and they won't talk about it. Now, it's different in a mortgage brokerage company that has it, but there's going to be an upfront commercial. The appraisal, they're going to have to pay up front. This is when you're buying a commercial unit of a 5 units or more. On residential too, you're going to have to pay the appraisal. A lot of times they can put it in loan, but a lot of times you may have to pay it up front. It just depends on where you are, steady state, and depends what OPs are. Standard operating procedures different. If you're doing commercial, you're going to have to pay the appraisal up front, and it could cost anywhere from $1,000 up to $10,000, depending on what you're doing. So you have to have cash. A lot of times you can't. Your closing costs, sometimes you get 1 to 2% for most of the time to sell tonight. So to pay for the closing costs. That's just the way it goes. Stuff you can write off in your LLC or your corporation. Get an LLC. It's better. Sometimes you can't write anything off. Sometimes you can write some stuff. A non-commercial real estate. Yes, some brokers, I'd say half the charge it, probably half won't. It's a variable. When I do, it's going to be a non-refundable. Like when I do proof of funds type of, or I do some other type of specialty stuff, you're going to pay a non-refundable administrative fee up front. And it just depends on the amount of loan. Like a lot of times for a commercial, when I do it, generally I'll do loans under $1 million. A lot of times I won't actually do loans under $5 million. And basically I'm going to charge administrative fee, non-refundable up front. It'll be in the contract. If you don't like it, tough. I don't want to. So if you whine it over that kind of stuff, that small stuff, then you shouldn't be in the game at all doing anything. You're going to have to pay. It's just the way it is. But the thing is, And long term, you're going to kind of laugh at it because in long term, it's going to go up. When you're buying apartment buildings or commercial buildings, this is where we're focusing on apartment buildings. It's a long-term game. Grant Cardone, it's a long-term game. He's got he bought a Gulfstream 650. It's one of the best business jets in the planet, one of the fastest, especially with the long-range extenders. You can go 8,800 miles, 8,500 miles, somewhere in there. You can eventually fly across the globe and do Gulfstream 7. Same way, I'm surprised you didn't buy that, but you can't buy those right now because they just put them out in General Dynamics. But that shows how high for a $100 million jet. Okay. So, and that's a cool part of real estate is that you can make money, but it's a long-term game. There are going to be some stuff you're going to be able to flip and dump. I'll get into it down the road about buying apartment buildings and basically flipping those into condos. You need an attorney that knows how to do that because not all real estate attorneys, like attorneys, are created equal. But I'm all for getting a real attorney. Me and my cousin, we still on basically on the payroll, so to speak. In other words, we paid up our retainer up front so we could ask him questions because, yeah, I've been in legal pickles before, and I'll be the first to admit it, and it's not fun. So I've been through the suit process, of course, and everything. Anyone went to court, it all got hashed out, but I've been through it a few times. So if your agent has been through it a few times, so what? Your agent's been taken to the state, so what? Or the multiple. That doesn't mean anything. You know what? I'd rather work with that agent. You know why? Because that agent's been through it, and they're a high speed because they've done a lot of deals and making money. That's the agent I want to work with because that agent's going to know more people and how to get better deals. If I have some agents that are too spick and span, stay away from them unless it's a referral, because a lot of times that agent is what I call a vanilla agent. They don't know much. Mortgage broker a little bit different. Mortgage broker, you usually got to keep more on the rip. You might have a mortgage broker that's been some stuff, had some state stuff. So what? That means they're experienced. They know what they're doing. So you see, I'm not dogging on those people for that because I know that those are high-speed agents and done a lot of stuff. I know a lot of agents in Seattle that have been for stupid stuff and civil stuff, and some have lost their licenses. Some have had their licenses suspended. They came back and they're still roaring. And they did a lot of deals. A lot of these agents will do 150. Let's just say they do 100 to 200 deals a year. That puts in the top 1% of real estate. That's like 99.9 real estate circles. You've got 2.5 million in the United States. So don't let that throw you off. That's actually not a bad thing because that agent knows how to write up deals. They understand the paperwork. And so I know I'm throwing at it. I'm getting long-winded about it. I just want to make sure that you're successful in what you're trying to do as basically as a consumer. You're an investor. You're a buyer. You're a first-time buyer, third or fourth-time buyer. You're looking to get an apartment building. If you can't, when you're starting out, get a fourplex. If you can afford to get a 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10plex, fine, get it. Remember, on the commercial side, starts at a 5-unit or more. It's a whole different game in financing. And when you're buying a single-family residential market, you can have a seller take closing costs. You may have to increase the price, but as long as it comps out. Can't do that on a commercial side. Commercial side, you're going to pay for closing costs most of the time. Some funders will allow 1 to 2% closing costs, pretty rare. Okay, preparing out the appraisals on the residential side. A lot of times the mortgage broker can roll them in. Sometimes they'll have you pay for that or report up front, pay it $35, $55 for a credit report. It's going to get run twice, and it's going to get run by the mortgage broker. It's going to get run 2 days before they get the loan document up. So do not buy anything on credit. Do not buy a car. Don't use your credit cards. Don't do squat because it could really screw your score up and you're going to get screwed. So remember that. On the commercial side, it's a different deal. The commercial side, be prepared to pay. You're going to have to pay for the appraisal. Credit report, they'll let you pull your own a lot of times. Be prepared to pay for an administrative fee up front. If you can't handle that, you shouldn't be buying any commercial real estate. It's just part of the game. It should be nothing. You got some cash, I know things would be tight, but be prepared to pay for it. I always tell people you need to set aside $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 upfront fees. This is not going to be the case all the time. It's going to be the case. That's in addition to the other closing costs you're going to have to pay because you're going to have to pound. Commercial is a different beast than residential. It's not the same. Residential is considered a single-family residence house, a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. If you're going to get a house or fourplex, buy the fourplex first, 6 months later, or 3 months later. And the commercial side of it starts with a 5-unit and up. And basically, you're going to have to pay most of your closing costs. You're going to have to put some money down. And the thing is a little bit different. It's pretty straightforward. It's different. Residential is a lot way because there's a lot more financing in residential than there is in commercial. So with that being said, good luck. Go out there, get some properties and nail it. And if you need to email me, do it. Subscribe to my podcast, and we'll be talking soon.